Students, today we are going to talk on an important topic, that is PPH, postpartum hemorrhage. Now the definition, as according to WHO, it goes, any postpartum blood loss from the genital tract in excess of 500 ml after vaginal delivery or 1000 ml after cesarean section. That is called as postpartum hemorrhage. Now, what does this mean? That if the bleeding is occurring more than the set quantity of 500 ml after a vaginal delivery or 1000 ml after a cesarean section, and if the bleeding is more than 1.5 liters after a cesarean hysterectomy. Now, what is this term cesarean hysterectomy means? That during a cesarean section, if the bleeding is so much excess and it is not controllable, we many a times need to remove the uterus as well. So removal of uterus is called as hysterectomy, and when the removal is done at the time of cesarean section, it is called as cesarean hysterectomy. So, if the blood loss is more than 500 ml in a vaginal delivery or more than 1000 ml after cesarean section, it is called as postpartum hemorrhage. This blood loss is after the delivery. Now, depending upon after how many hours or how much time this bleeding is occurring, it is divided into primary PPH, which is early PPH. Excessive bleeding is occurring within first 24 hours of delivery. It is primary PPH. Now, this primary PPH again is further divided into two subcategories. These subcategories are third stage PPH and true primary PPH. Third stage. Let us come back to our stages of labor. I have already told you and recapping that we have 4 stages of labor. First stage of labor is from true labor pains till full dilatation of cervix. Second stage is full dilatation of cervix to the delivery of the baby. Third stage is delivery of placenta, and fourth stage is monitoring. Now, ideally what happens that after the baby is delivered, after the placenta is delivered, then we have got these torn sinuses. So, bleeding is occurring from these blood vessels. But many a times after the delivery of baby, the excessive bleeding is occurring. Means in between the delivery of the baby and delivery of placenta. That is a third stage. During that time, if excessive bleeding is occurring, then it is called as third stage PPH. And if excessive bleeding is occurring after the delivery of placenta, it is called as true primary PPH. Got it? So, primary PPH is first 24 hours and secondary PPH is if the more bleeding occurs than the said quantity after 24 hours and in initial few weeks of puerperium, say about 6 to 12 weeks, then it is called as secondary PPH. Secondary PPH is also called as late PPH. Most common cause of primary PPH is atonic PPH and most common cause of secondary PPH is retained placental products. Now, coming back, as I have already told you, there is a set amount of blood loss which we are going to see, say 500 ml. But these things, it is more of quantity. I mean to say, I have to take a fresh mop, then it is soaked in, I will calculate how much it is soaked with blood, I will pre-weight it, I will post-weight it, and then I will calculate the difference of it. So it is more of a theoretical thing. Okay, I am seeing that the patient is collapsing, patient is drying, she is profusely bleeding, but I am waiting to let me see whether it is 500 ml, whether it is 1 liter or not. So it is more of a theoretical definition. What is practical definition? If any blood loss from the genital tract is occurring after the delivery, which is deteriorating the patient clinically. Deteriorating means the patient is going into shock, she is clinically unstable. What are the initial signs of clinical instability? That is pulse. As I always tell you that vitals are very important. So look for the pulse, look for the BP. If there is tachycardia, pulse rate means pulse rate is increasing and blood pressure is falling, hypotension, they are indicator that somewhere bleeding is occurring, patient is going hemodynamically unstable. So go watch where the blood loss is occurring, you have to see that. So, clinically blood loss, clinical judgment is more important rather than these theoretical definitions. There are other few definitions which are going in direction of PPH, like 10% change in hematocrit. If I know what is hematocrit, children, there are two parameters which assess the hemoglobin, the anemia status of the patient. One is hemoglobin and second is hematocrit. Hemoglobin 12, if it is less than 12, we consider it to be anemia, and so is hematocrit. If it is less than 36%, we consider it to be going towards anemia. Hematocrit is packed cell volume concentration. We are here talking about RBCs. It is a better indicator than hemoglobin to assess the anemia status of the patient. Okay. So in that case, if 10% change in hematocrit means her pre-delivery hematocrit, suppose it was, if I say 30, and post-delivery hematocrit, 30 is again the patient is anemic. If I am saying 30% is the packed cell volume or hematocrit. If it is reduced to 10%, say it becomes to be 26 or it becomes 27, 30% का 10% हो गया 3. So it is reduced after delivery to 26 or 27. This means the patient developed excessive bleeding, because of which the hematocrit has fallen down. So this is one of the indicator which tells you, yes, there would have been a possibility that excessive blood loss was responsible for the fall of hematocrit. Now another definition also says that whenever a erythrocyte, when patient bleeds so much that we need to transfuse her a blood, this means the bleeding was excessive. Otherwise, after every normal delivery or every cesarean section, we don't need to transfuse the blood. But if we assess clinically, yes, the bleeding was excess and we should give her a blood transfusion, erythrocyte transfusion or packed cell transfusion, then it comes under the category, yes, she might have bled excessively and she could have landed up into PPH. Now, PPH is such an important entity that it is the most common cause of death after the delivery. Okay, if you remember, Mumtaz Mahal, the wife of Shah Jahan, the great empress, she died of PPH while delivering her 14th child. So this bleeding is so risky kind of a thing that anybody who is at risk of atonicity can land up atonic PPH and can develop this condition. Now, grades of PPH. If the bleeding is between 500 to 1000 ml, it is called as a minor PPH, and this is a kind of a reversible stage. We have got various maneuvers, various methods that we can compensate this kind of a blood loss. Then if the bleeding is between 1 liter to 1.5 liters, it is called as major PPH, and if the bleeding is more than 2 liters, it is called as severe PPH. There is also a term which is given in few of the books which is called as significant obstetric hemorrhage for a bleeding of more than 1500 ml. Intractable PPH is a term that many a times, even 10% of women, it has been seen that they don't respond to the initial management steps and we have to go to surgical steps, or they may go to an irreversible stage. So that is the term which is used for those patients, that is intractable PPH, which do not respond to our initial maneuvers. Causes of postpartum hemorrhage. You should remember this mnemonic, 4 T's. First T stands for tone. I told you that after the delivery, the uterus becomes hard and globular structure. But if it does not become hard and globular, it becomes loose, hanging, pouch-like a organ, then means it is not having its tone. It has not maintained its tone. It is atonic. Okay, so most important cause of primary PPH is atonic PPH. Then second T is tissue, means placenta. There can be abnormalities with the placenta, that placenta did not get. Here we can see that after the delivery, there should be delivery of the placenta, but placenta is adhered to it. It is not well separating, so it is not allowing the sinuses. There are uterine sinuses. Sinuses are the blood vessels over here in this layer of myometrium. They are not able to retract. The uterus, there is some structure which is lying. Placenta is not coming out. It is not expelling out. It is adherent, so it does not allow the bleeding to stop. So tissue is again, placental abnormalities or tissue abnormalities is again a factor of PPH. Then trauma, means there can be bleeding from there can be trauma at various sites. From there can be open bleeding sinuses. There can be bleeding from cervix, it can be torn, the angles of the cervix can be torn, bleeding from the vaginal tissues, the mucosa is very fragile. Then if we give the episiotomy, that is, we give a planned incision at the perineum so that the space becomes enough for the baby to deliver. Many a times episiotomy sites bleeds a lot. So these local injuries or genital injuries can also be a cause of excessive bleeding after delivery. And fourth T is thrombin. So what are the four T's? One is tone, second is tissue, third is trauma, and four is thrombin. Thrombin means there are some clotting defects. There is non-formation of thrombin. We all know that whenever we bleed, after some time, if we press that particular site, there is formation of a plug automatically. So this means clotting process has taken place, and if there is any defect of clotting, as we see in many patients of coagulation disorders or von Willebrand disease, or if they are on some drug therapy, they may not stop bleeding, they profusely bleed. So in those cases there is defect with the clotting factors, and so that can lead to excessive bleeding after the delivery. Now initial stage is a reversible stage of postpartum hemorrhage, but if we do not take care, if we do not assess it, it can go to the irreversible stage. So as we will study in various stages of shock. Now normally what happens? What happens after the delivery? Normal physiology. Now these are the ligatures. This is a crisscross pattern of the middle layer of myometrium. We know that endometrium, that is the decidua part, it sheds off after the delivery. Next layer is myometrium. So in the middle layer of myometrium, the fibers are arranged in the form of crisscross pattern as a collapsing dose, and these round structures are the blood vessels. After the delivery, there is retraction of these fibers. They come close to each other, and contraction and retraction, and these blood vessels, they get closed, their mouth get closed, and after sometimes there is formation of clot at the mouth of the vessel. This is a normal mechanism how the bleeding stops after the delivery. What happens? See here, the placenta will be removed, and these sinuses which are present in the myometrium, by this process of contraction and retraction of the myometrial layer, they will stop. So there will be no bleeding from these sinuses after the delivery. But many a times when we see, I have told you these 4 T's, if there is any defect, then the bleeding will keep on continuing. Especially atonic PPH, the tone will not be maintained. They will not come together. There won't be good contraction and retraction, and the blood will keep on pouring from these sinuses. Okay, these middle layer of myometrium, because they act as a ligature. Ligature is a knot. तो हमने यहाँ पर बंद कर दिए knots की. These blood vessels opening are tied. They are because of this musculature. So therefore the middle layer of myometrium is called as living ligature. This is an important question for your MCQs also. Now, what are the risk factors for PPH? So all patients don't develop PPH. There are certain high risk patients who are at risk of developing PPH, especially atonic PPH. We know beforehand only that she is at a high risk. Take care of it. So what are the causes which land a patient into risk category, especially of atonic PPH? This is a very important part. You have got questions also from this part being asked to you repeatedly. So grand multiparas. As I told you, grand multiparas, more than 4, 5, 5th delivery, 4th delivery, they are at high risk. Why they are at high risk? Because they are again and again getting pregnant. They are having more chances of anemia, malnutrition, and because of this, we know if the muscles are not in a good nutritional state, there will be improper retraction. Retraction नहीं होएगी, blood vessels, blood pour होता रहेगा, uterine sinuses will not plug. So there will be continuous bleeding, and the hard globular structure of the uterus won't be formed because the muscles are weak. So there will be inadequate retraction. And even in grand multiparas, it has been seen the placenta, because again and again she is getting pregnant. There are many a times there are miscarriages, there are deliveries. So there are chances the endometrial surface is also rough. That is not good. So the placenta which is attached to that surface, many a times it can be adherent also. Again, it will lead to atonicity. Malnutrition is itself an independent factor for it will lead to inadequate retraction. Anemia, the muscles will also show they are malnourished, and so there will be inadequate retraction. Previous history of atonic PPH. Any previous history in past pregnancy, if she had atonic PPH, there are chances of recurrence in this pregnancy also. So we should be alert. APH. As this is a topic of PPH, APH is antepartum hemorrhage. Bleeding which was occurring from the genital tract after 28 weeks of gestation, any time before the delivery of birth is called as antepartum. Means before the delivery of birth, if the bleeding is occurring, that is antepartum, and if it is occurring after the delivery of baby, it is postpartum. Now, two important causes of antepartum hemorrhages are placenta previa and abruptio. What is placenta previa? Placenta is usually attached on the upper segment, but if this placenta is attached at the lower uterine segment, that is called as placenta previa. As we already have seen in the class of puerperium, that lower uterine segment, the capacity, it is loose flebby. The capacity of retraction and contraction is less in the lower uterine segment, so the sinuses may remain open and bleed for a more duration. So if the placenta is in the lower uterine segment, the chances of bleeding are more. Similarly, what is abruptio placenta? Abruptio placenta is, ideally I have told that placenta will deliver after the delivery of baby, but many cases there can be premature separation of placenta. This can occur in the antenatal period also, that placenta is separating from some sides. So that is called as abruptio placenta. So these two are important conditions of antepartum hemorrhage. So if the patient had any of these conditions during the pregnancy period, she is at a high risk of developing atonic PPH. Over-distended uterus. What are the causes of over-distended uterus? Multiple pregnancy, means more than one fetuses. Hydromnios, polyhydromnios, more liquor. Macrosomia. This is a condition when the baby weight is more than 4 kg. So these are few examples when the uterus will be over distended as a normal singleton, one single fetus is ज़्यादा, तो उस केसेस के अंदर एन एवरेज डिस्टेंशन से ज्यादा उसका ओवर डिस्टेंडेड होगा. इट विल बी एनलार्ज, इट विल बी ऑफ बिगर साइज. सो नाउ इट विल टेक मोर टाइम फॉर रिट्रैक्शन. मोर इट विल बी डिस्टेंडेड, मोर इट विल टेक टाइम फॉर द fibers to retract. And similarly, if the baby is large, the placenta will be large, so more opening sinuses will be there. So there are chances that patient may have a delayed retraction and so atonicity. Obesity is also an independent risk factor. Precipitate labor. I have told you labor usually lasts for about 6 to 12 hours. But if the labor is lasting for less than 3 hours, then it is called as precipitate labor. So because uterus does not get much time to accommodate itself, therefore it is called as precipitate labor. And if suppose a condition of prolonged labor, that is if the active labor is lasting for more than 12 hours, it is called as prolonged labor. Why prolonged labor is a factor for atonicity? Because there is poor retraction of the muscle fibers, because muscle fibers have been kept stretched for a longer duration. If the patient is in labor for a longer time, we will do more examinations. There are more chances of infection. So infection of the fetal membranes is called as amnionitis, because the fetal membranes are amnion and chorion, and their infection and inflammation is called as chorioamnionitis. So that is a condition which can lead to improper retraction of the muscle fibers and so atonicity. And if the patient is in labor for such a long duration, there are chances of her getting dehydrated. Therefore, we always give her good amount of fluid or through IV drips. That patient should always remain hydrated when she is having labor pains or when she is bearing down. Okay, so there should not be any chances of dehydration, because dehydration again lands up to poor retraction and so atonicity. Now, mismanagement of third stage of labor. What happens? Third stage, we know delivery of placenta is there in third stage, but many a time we don't wait कि baby deliver हुआ, okay, let us pull the cord and remove the placenta. No, we should wait for the signs of placental separation. What are the signs of placental separation? That when the baby is delivered, now this cord is hanging down. Baby is out, the cord is hanging down, so this uterus will come down. I have told you that after the delivery of the baby, uterus comes down. The uterus becomes hard and globular organ. There will be apparent lengthening of the cord, because placenta is here. Now if the placenta gets comes down over here, it is separating. So the cord will also come down. So we can visually see that the cord is coming down. And when the placenta will be separated from this layer, there will be sudden gush of blood. So these are signs of placental separation. We should wait for the signs of placental separation and then only assist in the delivery of placenta. We should not fiddle with the placenta or the cord, otherwise it will cause trauma and it will lead to atonicity of the uterus. Inadvertent use of oxytocin, that is, oxytocin is the agent which is used for augmentation of the labor pains, for increasing the labor pains. But if we don't use it in a right manner, it will block the receptors, and after the delivery its action won't be effective. Means we want contraction and retraction to occur after the delivery of the uterus, but if the receptors will be blocked, oxytocin is responsible for contraction. If the receptor will be blocked because of improper use of it, so it can land up into improper contraction, and so the tone won't be maintained. Many a times the use of anesthetic agents, for example, now there is a trend of epidural or painless delivery. So in the many a times, if the patient is having excessive labor pains, we give her relaxants. So if suppose after the delivery the effect of relaxants is there on the uterus, the tone won't come as so soon. So we should be very careful while we are giving relaxants to the female at the time of labor pains. Then retained placental fragment, if suppose few fragments or few membranes or few placental bits are there in the uterus, the tone of the uterus won't be hard and globular, and it will result into atonicity. Uterine anomalies, there can be a septum, there can be some septum in the uterus and placenta, there is embedding of the placenta on some septum. So in those conditions, these are some malformations of the uterus. Sometimes fibroids are there, and fibroids do not allow the uterus to contract and retract well after the delivery. And morbidly adherent placenta, that is, a placenta is very much attached, or it is called as placenta accreta. When the placenta is attached to the uterine surface, and it is called as morbidly adherent placenta. So these were the important causes of atonic PPH. Atonic PPH is a very important topic. Just go through the chapter and revise it. Thank you.